Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're jumping right into Dr. Susan Edwards' absolutely fascinating core essay on global transformations. We're going to start by unpacking how these massive macro-level shifts are fundamentally rewiring our world. And from there, we'll take a deep dive into theme 5 of her work, specifically looking at how these exact same changes are completely redefining our channels of creativity.
We've got to start with Bob Dylan, right? Back in 1963, he famously sang, "The times they are a-changin'." And as Dr. Edwards points out, that wasn't just a catchy folk tune. It was this poetic acknowledgement that if we want to survive, we absolutely have to assess and adapt to the rapid societal transformations going on around us. Dylan was documenting the massive cultural shifts of the 50s and 60s. Well, here we are, over 55 years later, navigating our own era of rapid, unprecedented change. That need to acknowledge and assess our shifting reality, it's honestly more critical now than it's ever been.
So here's our roadmap for today. First, a world in transformation. Second, assessing societal and economic shifts. Third, the entertainment evolution. Fourth, democratizing the arts. And finally, the future of creativity.
Let's kick things off with Part 1, A World in Transformation, Acknowledging Global Changes.
When we talk about transformation, we're talking about massive shifts happening across entirely different global sectors, all at the exact same time. The scale is just staggering. Over in the natural world, you have conservationists like Joel Sertor. He spent 12 years racing against the clock to photograph over 7,000 rare animals in human care. It's a huge undertaking just to raise awareness before we potentially lose half of all species by the next century. Then shift over to the global economy. We're dealing with immense physical transformations from natural disasters. Hurricanes Harvey, Irma, and Maria violently transformed economic systems, racking up an estimated $150 to $200 billion in damages. That kind of lost productivity ripples through the entire global supply chain. And looking at labor, you've got whole nations transforming their economic identities. India is pulling off this incredible balancing act right now. Almost half their workforce, about 27%, is still rooted in traditional agriculture. But simultaneously, they're driving global economic growth with this massive futuristic boom in IT services and outsourcing. These aren't just one-off events. It's the macro-level reality of a world in flux.
Moving right along to Section 2, Assessing Societal and Economic Shifts, Navigating the New Normal.
So how does this macro change hit our everyday lives? Well, our societal baseline is shifting incredibly fast. In business, the trend is heavily leaning into corporate consolidation. Just look at U.S. airlines. Back in the year 2000, we had 10 major companies. Today, just 4. And those 4 control a staggering 83% of the market, completely changing consumer choice and pricing. Socially, things are transforming too. High-profile platforms are increasingly becoming the center for identity politics. Take Colin Kaepernick's NFL protests, for instance. Taking a knee during the national anthem sparked these massive, ongoing global dialogues about differences, racial inequality, and systemic oppression. And then there's the tech frontier, which is frankly moving way faster than any regulations can keep up with. You have a Wisconsin company called 3 Square Market literally embedding microchips into their employees' hands. They are blurring the lines between biology and corporate data just so people can open doors or buy a snack in the break room. Add to that the stark reality of digital security, where hackers and automated bots are actively interfering in democratic elections across the US, France, and Germany. This is our deeply transformed new normal, where data, corporate power, and identity are just constantly intersecting.
Okay, Section 3, the entertainment evolution, from shared moments to splintered screens.
This is where things get really fascinating, because these global shifts directly impact the channels of our creativity and entertainment. Think about the shared cultural moments of the past. The 1980s show Dallas was an absolute monolith. If you know the phrase, "Who shot JR?" it's because you were probably one of the 350 million people globally who tuned in after an 8-month wait to find out. 350 million. Now contrast that monolithic event with HBO's Game of Thrones, which is widely considered one of the defining cultural phenomenons of our current era. Its highest-rated episode? 16 million viewers. That is a massive, massive drop in centralized, shared viewership.
And the reason why is perfectly summed up by the number 189. That's the average number of cable channels people have access to today. Now, research consistently shows we really only watch about 17 of them. But that sheer volume of choice has totally fragmented the media landscape. There's no single water cooler for us all to gather around anymore. We've traded it for hundreds of splintered screens.
You can easily trace how media consumption evolved to get us here. Step 1. For most of U.S. television history, you had 3 or 4 network channels. Everyone basically watched the same thing at the same time. Step 2. The proliferation of cable hits, giving us that 189 channel average, and the fragmentation begins. And that brings us to Step 3, the digital and mobile renaissance. Today, most young people don't even use traditional TVs as their main way to watch shows. Platforms like YouTube have completely taken over. It's now the #1 global arts and entertainment site on the planet, and it's single-handedly launching massive stars like Justin Bieber, The Weeknd, and Ed Sheeran, totally outside the traditional Hollywood gatekeeper system.
Which leads perfectly into Section 4, democratizing the arts, empowering the independent voice. Just take a quick second and think about how many screens are within arm's reach of you right now. According to Dr. Edwards' research, a huge tipping point happened in 2014. For the very first time in history, there were more mobile devices than people in the world. This wild proliferation of personal devices is the exact engine driving the individuation of modern arts. It gives artists the power to completely bypass traditional networks and beam their work directly into the palms of highly targeted audiences. This shift to devices completely rewired consumption. Look at music. Over 75% of buyers now overwhelmingly prefer digital formats. Streaming and digital downloads are the absolute standard now, fundamentally altering how artists distribute what they make. Though, as a fun little side note, physical media isn't totally dead. We actually saw a surprising 36% jump in vinyl purchases recently from collectors and audiophiles. But make no mistake, the dominant force, the main channel of creativity today, is undeniably digital.
Because of this digital dominance, independent voices have so much power right now, and they are building entirely new ecosystems of creativity. Look at Tokyo's Comic-Con event. 590,000 fans showing up to buy self-published, creator-owned comics called doujinshi. No major publishers involved, and these comics often resell online globally for a fortune. Or look at Forever South, a fiercely independent electronic music collective in Pakistan reaching worldwide audiences without ever needing a Western record deal. In Kenya, you have Jinku, an artist who literally invented a brand new genre called Swahili Bass by mixing traditional East African sounds with modern electronic beats. You've got French-Algerian singer Taha dropping multi-million streaming hits directly to fans on SoundCloud. And in Brazil, artists like Cashew are organizing underground techno events in abandoned Sao Paulo buildings using digital networks to shine a spotlight on local political issues. None of these creators need the old 3 or 4 traditional networks to build deeply dedicated, massive global audiences.
And finally, Section 5, the future of creativity, adapting to the personal device.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought based on Dr. Edwards' core essay. We know massive global shifts are rewiring our ecosystems. We know the arts are democratizing at lightning speed, and we know that true cultural power now lives inside our personal devices. So, as the world rapidly democratizes, what exactly must traditional institutions do to acknowledge, assess, and achieve change in the face of that very smartphone you are probably holding right now? It's a transformative question for a transforming world. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into the changing channels of creativity. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you next time.